Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting, and I'm coming to you with my review for the latest episode of Iyanla Fix My Life, Season 6, Episode 601, titled My Father Killed My Mother. Now, this video is going to be a little bit intense, so let's get all of the housekeeping out of the way first. Number one, thank you to all of my new subscribers. I appreciate the love and I thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Number two, thank you to all of my returning subscribers. I know I haven't been a vision of consistency lately, so I appreciate the continued support despite my absence. And number three, thank you to everyone who clicked on this video. If you like the content, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So without further ado, let's get into this latest episode of Iyanla Fix My Life. Now, the main idea of this episode is that a father, whose name is Bo, was imprisoned for about 30 years because he murdered the mother of his son. The mother of his son's name was Daisy, and his son's name is Shane. Now that he is out of jail, he's trying to mend a relationship with his son, whose life he basically destroyed. Now, is it me, or does this type of forgiveness seem impossible? I didn't know that there was this much forgiveness in the world. I mean, knowing how I feel about my mother, knowing how, people feel about their mothers, I don't know that, or I didn't feel at the beginning of watching this episode that this could actually be like a possibility, that somebody could actually forgive one of their parents for murdering the other. But first off, before we get into the meat and potatoes of what happened, we're going to talk about the particular guests who were on the show. So first we have Daisy, who is the slain mother of Shane. She was murdered when her son was 6 years old, and he was actually in the house and kind of witnessed the murder happen, and this was about 34 years ago. Next we have Bo, who is Shane's father and who claims that Daisy was the love of his life. He murdered Daisy 34 years ago, and he is 60 years old now, and he claims that it's hard for him to talk to his son about this topic, and I would imagine that it is. Moving on, we have Shane, who is now 40, and he is the son of Daisy and Bo, and like I said, he witnessed this murder, and he's confused about whether or not he should basically totally discard his father because his father robbed him of a mother and a father, or if he should try to salvage some type of relationship with his father so that he can at least have a relationship with one of his parents. And I imagine it's a very tough position to be in. Next, some of the other guests we see are Tanae. She's 23 years old, and Tanae is Shane's niece and Bo's granddaughter. Next, we have Wanda, who is 57. She is Bo's sister. And lastly, we have Tamiko, who didn't really play a big role, but Tamiko is Shane's half-sister. She is Bo's daughter, and she is the mother of Tanae. So we're going to jump right into this because that's the way Iyanla did it. The first time they walk into the house, they walking into what looks like a funeral parlor where they are, at a funeral or, a makeshift funeral for Daisy, who is Shane's mother. He's barely in the room before he starts breaking down because come to find out, he didn't even go to his mother's funeral. I mean, he was 6 years old. He actually found her dead. I would imagine it would be a very traumatic experience for him. And I guess growing up now, and it's 34 years later, he may feel like some guilt about not being able to say goodbye to his mother at a funeral. And while I think all of us know that we don't have to attend somebody's funeral for us to have said goodbye or to have closure around somebody's passing, I think for all of us, that's the thing that's in our head. The most appropriate way for us to pay our respects and say goodbye is to attend somebody's homegoing services. And maybe he feels some guilt around that. But anyway, Iyanla is trying to give him this opportunity to say goodbye. And she keeps saying to him, when it gets hard, remember what you want. Now, outside of this show, I was thinking about that and trying to figure out, because I'm having a challenging time in my life. Not, similar to Shane and Bo and his family. But I'm having a challenging time in my life figuring out the things that I want, figuring out the next steps that I should take in my life. And I think that that's a really good saying to keep in mind, that when it gets hard, remember what you want. And that's really challenging for somebody like me who is right now in this limbo, not really knowing what they want. What do I want to do with my life? And when things get challenging, what do I want? What do I have that will push me and propel me through those difficult moments? And so that just was a moment of introspection for me. But moving on, Iyanla takes on this role of being Daisy. Iyanla doesn't know Daisy from a can of paint, doesn't know her at all, but she feels that if Daisy were here, Daisy would say something along the lines of, I'm okay. Daisy is okay. She's not experiencing any pain and she's been gone for 34 years. And Daisy's concern would be what has happened to her family, what has happened to the people that she loves, what has happened to her son, what has her death done to them? Are they growing? Are they pushing past it? Are they having these conversations so they can have better relationships? And of course the answer is no, because they're on Iyanla Fix My Life. So this is supposed to be their motivation for them to get it together, knowing that Daisy, even though she was murdered, even though she was killed too soon, even though she was basically killed in front of her son, that she would have wanted them to I don't want to say get over it because that seems harsh, but she would have wanted them to push past the situation and, reach the other side and reach some type of resolve. So moving on, we find out that Tanae wrote Iyanla, and again, Tanae is Shane's niece and Bo's granddaughter. Tanae said that they needed a new kind of help and that Shane didn't come around the family because of this issue. And I kind of don't blame him. I don't know that I would want to be associated with anything of my father's if he murdered my mother. So I get that. Now, being 6 at the time and having lost his mother, and it seems like he actually witnessed the murder and then he found his mother dead, and that could be so traumatic. And I just feel so much compassion for him and so much sympathy for him. And like, who knows what type of emotional scarring is involved. And the fact that he can even be in the same room as his father is just a big sign of strength. Like, there must be a 6-year-old inside of him that is upset that his mother is dead, but is also longing to have a relationship with his father. Because I don't know if I could even be in a room, even after 34 years have passed. I don't know that I can even be in a room who turned my life upside down like that. So, there's something to be said for the fact that Shane can even be in the same room as Bo. But moving on, Tanae says that the family walks on eggshells because of who Bo used to be, and that Tanae does not know her grandfather to be the angry man that, snaps off on people, who's an alcoholic, who abuses drugs. She just knows her grandfather. Now, Iyanla asked what happened in Bo and Daisy's relationship to get to that point, and if Tanae had ever asked that question. And Tanae says she's wondered why, her grandfather was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and come to find out she, dabbled in alcoholism a little bit herself. So we see that this is a generational curse over, the course of multiple generations, and Tanae has a young son, and, Iyanla suggests that Tanae wrote to Iyanla so that they could break this cycle and stop it at Tanae so that it's not passed down to Tanae's son. So, Iyanla asks Tanae what she wants, and she says she wants her family to work it out. She wants Shane and Bo to have some type of relationship, and she wants to learn about her family history. So, come to find out, Tanae is kind of a victim of this vicious cycle as well. And she's at risk of passing things down to her own son. So, she did this for her family and she did it for herself. And so we see that Iyanla's, exhibit, because we know she does a lot of visual type of things that help people understand the situations they're in. And we see a a cage of demons. And it's kind of funny because the cage is actually a dog crate, and my dog is in a dog crate just like it. But anyways, the demons include alcoholism, abandonment, abuse, not talking about things, and basically Iyanla says what they're going to do is call out these demons and destroy them with the demon killer, which is also known as the truth. So next we see Iyanla talk with Shane. So Shane sees, recalls the events of that night, and he says that he sees three sparks and finds his mother body laying in the doorway. Shane says that he asked his father why, and Bo's response was that he was on drugs and does not remember. So Shane goes from being hurt to being enraged, and Iyanla sees that, and he basically admits that he doesn't know who he is. I want to apologize for the focusing of the camera. I'm filming from my phone, and it's a new phone, and it's just the focus is just so. There we go. It's better now. But anyways, the focus goes in and out. Whatever. Moving on. Shane says that he does not know anything about his father, but he wants to know about his father. And I'm like, Shane is a way better person than me. Shane is like extra calm. Like, I don't know. Shane is almost suspiciously forgiving. Does that make sense? I'm joking, not that this is a joking matter, but Shane was so calm and appeared to be so understanding and so willing to even want to forgive and to even want to have a relationship with his dad, that a part of me is like, why? It's very strange at how. Does anybody else know what I'm talking about? It's real hard to explain, but moving on. Shane's better than me. So next we see Iyanla talk with Bo. And, Iyanla asks him, how did you get to the place where you took Daisy's life? He says that, there was alcohol and drugs, and that he was abusive to her, and that he justified it because she hit him first. But he realized that she never could really hurt him, I guess, with her physical strength. But Bo claims that he was not raised in an abusive home, but that he was beaten by his father. So Bo claims that his relationship with Daisy was very on and off, and at the time that Bo murdered Daisy, she was in a relationship with somebody else. He says, it was 5 a.m. and that he was high and drunk, and that he came to Daisy's house looking for sex. But then he ended up shooting her. So things went terrible very quickly. That's a very quick escalation. But moving on, Bo gets defensive when Iyanla suggests that the reason he can't remember is because his mind is blocking out the memories. Now, he claims that the drugs and the alcohol stopped him from remembering pulling the trigger. Now, we all know that we can repress memories when, there are difficult situations and difficult memories that pop up, and we also know that drugs and alcohol impair judgment and memory. So in all truth, it could be both. He could not remember because he was on drugs, and he could not remember because his mind is blocking that horrible traumatic situation out. But I think that Iyanla was trying to get him to take responsibility instead of pushing off the responsibility onto the drugs and alcohol. And basically what she said was he needs to give himself permission to feel these things so he can forgive himself. So next, Wanda joins Bo and Iyanla, and again, Wanda is Bo's sister. She says that they grew up in an unhappy home, and they had, very bad beatings that went beyond discipline and went into the child abuse arena. And it got so bad that he shot at them. And it's like, are anybody else bells going off? I mean, it's clear that, this type of abuse was passed down from his father onto him. And it was odd, Iyanla said that he said that he didn't grow up in an abusive household, but the way his father beat him was clearly abuse. And, he beat his sisters. It's crazy. It's crazy how he didn't put two and two together. But Iyanla is trying to get him to stop thinking about the actual murder and to start thinking about what events led up to the murder, how things in his childhood and the way that he grew up actually led him to the point to where he became a drug addict and alcoholic, and to where he, murdered, the love of his life that, he claims was the love of his life. So she says that allowing himself not to remember why he went to the house that night is a way for him to basically play the martyr and to not really get to the root of the issue. And he has to figure it out so that the situation can truly be healed. So now we're at the cage of demons again, and Tanae tells her family that she wants Bo and Shane to try to mend their relationship, and everybody identifies their demons and they place them in the cage. I would imagine that they set the cage on fire, but I don't know. That we didn't really get to see that. But moving on, we see Iyanla and Bo again. And Bo actually did some self-reflection, and he felt like he could begin to identify the reasons why he actually went over to Daisy's house that night. And he said things like anger, being enraged, and Iyanla put up some other things that she suggested. He was a womanizer, there was familiar violence, and she gives him handcuffs, and he is shackled to these things. And so we see Iyanla and Shane talking again, and she shackles Shane with some handcuffs that are that list some things that have happened to him, things that have allowed this pathology to continue in their family, such as silence, loneliness, unforgiveness, etc. So finally, Shane and Bo come face to face, and y'all, this is when the waterworks started happening. Again, Shane being so forgiving is just amazing to me, and it's so powerful. And I know I was joking about it earlier because I feel like he was suspiciously forgiving, but knowing that he was 6 years old, not having a mother, not having a father, and him probably longing just to have a parent, I can understand why it would be so willing to try to let his father into his life. So moving on, Shane isn't really breathing, coming face to face with his father, and he really can't seem to stand looking at his dad. Excuse me, y'all. He really is hurt, and Bo affirms that he hurt Shane, and Bo says that he loves him and he loved Daisy. Now, Bo says that he feels guilty about his actions, and Shane admits that he wanted to kill Bo, and that's why Shane has some rage in him. But the fact that he hasn't come across Iyanla to attack Bo shows real growth and real strength. But anyway, Bo says he came to the house with a gun that night because he was trying to get Daisy to come back to him. And clearly things didn't go the way that he wanted to go. And that's another thing about rage, particularly male rage, is a sense of entitlement. And because things did not go the way that he wanted them to go, he ended up killing Daisy, and that's part of male violence and male privilege that people don't talk about very often, is a sense of entitlement. But moving on, Iyanla makes a note of the shackles that have been keeping Bo, enslaved all these years, and then prompts Bo to tell Shane about his father. And Bo says that he hated his father and that he beat them all the time, and that he realized his father only did what he knew. And so Iyanla wants Shane to tell Bo his story. And Shane basically says, I just needed a father. I just needed you to be there, and you robbed me of having both of my parents. And so Bo asked for forgiveness, and in a lot of these situations, like all we can do is take a best guess at how sincere somebody is being. Like, we can look at people like Althea and say she's not being sincere. She doesn't know why she's here on the show with Iyanla. She doesn't feel she has a problem, and any apology that comes out of her mouth or any sign of remorse or any hint of enlightenment is not sincere. But something about Bo screamed sincerity to me, like he was truly apologetic. And I'm happy that Shane felt that too. Shane truly felt the remorse coming from his father, and I was crying, I was in tears. Because again, before I even, watched the whole episode, I'm like, there's no way. Like, to me, it was like, there's no point for Iyanla to try to heal this family because there's no way that a son could forgive his father for murdering his mother. And I'm so glad that I was proved wrong because they ended up hugging it out. Shane got what he wanted, Bo got what he wanted. And Bo tells Shane that he's proud of him, and they're crying, and I'm crying, and just seeing that this family, that, you know, there's nothing that a family can't overcome, basically. And it was very emotional. And they say goodbye to the man who killed Daisy, recognizing that Bo is not that person anymore. And because Bo is not the person who he was when he killed Daisy, that gives Shane permission to love his father again. And I think that was important and symbolic. So it's the last day, it's day 3. They say they feel better, they feel lighter, and you can see it on their faces that like a weight has been lifted off of their shoulders. So Iyanla tells them, have you all thrown a football together? And the answer was no. Like, he's 40 years old. They are 40 and 60 years old, and they haven't had these simple interactions. Like, when he hugged his father in the previous scene, he said he don't remember the last time that his father hugged him. And for them not to have these experiences is just such a shame. But knowing that these two are working towards mending their relationship is just so great, and it's so inspirational. Like, a lot of stuff with these celebrity guests on Iyanla Fix My Life really doesn't work out because they're very invested in their image, more so than they're invested in their healing. But when she works with regular people, there's something about it that's so raw and so real. And even if the situations don't work out all the way, it's because they're standing in their own way. When people really open up to the process, when they really want healing, they can get it. And one of the things that Iyanla says is that we have to go beyond the surface. And if somebody asks you how you're doing, don't say fine just because it's like, an auto response. If you're really not doing okay, you can say you're not doing okay. And that's something that I am learning because it is an auto response. Oh, how you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. And I'm slowly learning that I can say that I'm not fine. And I think that's something that, we can all learn from. Apparently, their relationship has improved greatly. And again, I was just so inspired by this episode. So you all let me know what you thought about this episode. Do you think that if you were in Shane's shoes that you would be as forgiving? Do you think that you would try to seek revenge? I mean, who knows? It's very hard to imagine yourself in those shoes. But thank you guys for watching. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share this with people who you think are going to like it as well. Peace out, home slices.